going on, everybody? Aidan from Birds vs. Boys here, hoping that you had a wonderful Christmas with your family. If you are an Eagles fan tuning in, I think that you had a good Christmas. I don't know anymore, man. This is just the funniest team in the world. They win, it feels like the sky is falling and everything fell their way. But we did the sky is falling bit last week. We yelled, we screamed everything that was wrong about this team on a 3-game losing streak, and then after a loss to the Seahawks that should have never happened. Let's focus on the positives to start today. And the game started with a lot of positives. We talked about it at the point in the schedule with the opponents and the strength of schedule. There wasn't much that they could show to us that would tell us, hey, on a field with the 49ers, on a field with the Cowboys, on a field with the Ravens, if it even came to that, could you handle it? Could you win? We can't see anything against these opponents that would tell us, but that doesn't mean that we don't want to see some execution on an offensive point of view, to see some playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. And the early going, that's exactly what you saw. See, they came out 3 and out. Darius Leonard stepping up with your 2 starting linebackers out, makes back-to-back plays to start the game. Seems like he's reading and reacting better than he was his first few weeks with the team, which is great to see, just in case Nicholas Morrow or Zach Cunningham are unable to go in the coming weeks or into the playoffs. And just to have a guy like that in depth, to have him there providing exactly what you expected when he was released from the Colts and you signed him. I thought he played really well, and you saw it right away. They get off the field, 3 and out. You make a play with the special teams. Britton Covey makes the huge return, 2-play drive, touchdown. You're up 7-0 before you can even blink. They're trying to flash the graphics, showing that the Giants have horrible starts and are getting dominated early against the Eagles, and they score on a 2-play drive to start the game. They're already up 7-0. It's exactly what you would have expected and exactly what you wanted to see against a lesser opponent, because you dominated in all 3 phases of the game to start the game. And that continued as the half went. They get another stop. They get the field goal, and it's another. You get off the field. Exactly what you're supposed to do on defense, something that they haven't done. They've been last in the league. A bad punt. Britton Covey catches on the hop, and then you're in good field position. Your special teams making plays. This is exactly what you wanted to see. Jalen Hurts able to improvise on certain situations. That throw to Grant Calcaterra. That's what you love about Hurts, and it's like there's probably, 2 other guys in the league who could do that. 3, Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes, and Lamar Jackson would probably be the other 3. It's exactly what you wanted to see, but it was also, when we'll talk about everything going wrong, and that play will get thrown in there because it was kind of lopsided and stuff like that. But during that drive, there were a lot of good things. There was a lot of good run and pass balance, which is exactly what has been lacking. It'll kind of rear its ugly head again in the second half, but as they get discombobulated as they usually do. But early going, it was that balance that threw the Giants off. They were able to dominate them exactly what you would like to do. It's 20-3 at halftime. The defense, especially to me, I'm not expecting, anything crazy from Tommy DeVito. But the fact that they were able to gang tackle, read and react on runs so they could stop Saquon Barkley at the line of scrimmage, they kind of had an idea of where plays were going. They were trying to get the ball out of Tommy DeVito's hands quickly because he can't really throw downfield. They were able to react to that. They knew that was coming. Any of those wide receiver screens, it seemed like they were keyed in. They were making tackles. It's exactly what you wanted to see from the defense. I thought they played really well throughout that entire game, even into the second half when things start to go wrong. But that first half is exactly what you would have liked to see. They're up 20-3. They're dominating the divisional opponent. And even though, they're playing a backup quarterback. They're playing a team that is last in the league in offense. But that's exactly what we want to see. 20-3 at halftime. And this is where every problem with the Eagles starts. It's 20-3. You absolutely dominated that half. And if you look at the stats, they absolutely dominated that game as well. They doubled them up on first downs. They had over 450 yards on offense. If you just look at the stats, you look at that halftime score, you're saying you did exactly what you should do because you're a really good team. They get in their own way so much, and it starts immediately. So you end the half. Jalen Hurts doesn't know how many timeouts there are. He stays in bounds. They're able to still kick the field goal because of the delay of game on the Giants. It's very nice to play some of these bad teams. I'll tell you what. But coming out of the second half, it's exactly what's wrong with the Eagles. You are good. You are a talented team. You're up by 17, and you have the ball to start the second half. You've done everything right. You have dominated in all 3 phases of the game. If you put points on the board right there to start the second half, that game's over. in the third quarter. And instead, you go full bad news Bears in the third quarter, have two guys run into each other, fumble the football on the kickoff, first play of the half, set the Giants up in the red zone, a team that hasn't been able to move the ball on offense against you in the first half. They score. And then you have a player slip and fall down that turns into a pick six. And all of a sudden, it's 20-18. They can't get out of their own way. They do everything right and still end up in games like this where it's a one possession game late in the second half. It's 20-18 going into the fourth quarter. And you look at any stat category, they're dominating in any single aspect. The Giants had 14 yards in the third quarter and 15 points. They dominated that team completely. And yet still you're worried that they're going to lose the game. And to even compound it, you're up 20-18. And if it weren't for a 3rd and 20, they're getting the ball back with a chance to go ahead. If they could just stay out of their own way and not make mistakes, they are such a good football team. But because of those mistakes, it's balancing them out and putting them in these games where they can't seem to put any of these opponents away. So let's just get into the 3rd and 20 play. It's kind of why you brought AJ Brown in, is to make huge catches in big moments like that and use his big body and kind of go up and win jump balls and everything like that. So that was good to see. But it just felt like in that moment, making a play, and a miraculous play at that, almost settled them down, because the offense after that was back-to-back runs to Kenny Gainwell. He goes for 20 yards. Then they have another run. It was a short run, but it was still effective. It sets you up in 2nd and 6, so you have your full play-calling capabilities at your fingertips. You can go a multitude of directions with it, and they do. They go play action. Dallas Goedert. They get down to the 4. They score in the next play. And it's like, that's what the offense should be at all times. And they did it a lot yesterday with Dallas Goedert, where when they were running the ball successfully, then they get into play action. They find their tight ends, and it's almost like the pick your poison that we talked about that they were so successful last year. You're worried about the run. You're worried about Hurts taking off. And if not, you have Goddard leaking out when you think he's a blocker. They did a phenomenal job with that yesterday. They got away from it. And after that 3rd and 20 play, it was almost like they could take a breath. You can just feel it with this team. It's almost like they're waiting to crumble. They're waiting to explode. They do it every week where you're just like, guys, you're good. Just relax and take a deep breath. And at that moment, they actually did take a deep breath. They get the touchdown. They go up 27-18, and they kind of were able to put it away from there. And there were some other things that happened in that second half it's mind-boggling that it happened, and they give up the 70-yard touchdown. That's inexcusable, but at the same time, it was the second pass all game completed over 9 yards for the Giants. So yeah, that's annoying. Yeah, in that situation, the only thing you can't do is let the ball go over your head. They allow them to do that. But aside from that, it was really the only explosive play they let up the whole game. So it's hard for me to harp on the defense right there. But especially because they were put in a situation coming out of the half where the Giants were already in the red zone, a pick six, they were barely on the field. There was hardly any chance for them to, make plays and do anything like that. So there were some things that happened in that half, but I think once it got to 27-18, you were feeling pretty confident. And you were like, all right, well, that is the offense that I was looking for. Everything you did in the first half, and then you got back to in the second half after things just completely fell off the tracks. But I mean, they're just like the classic character if you watch BoJack Horseman, it's like anytime he seems to be doing good in life, he almost self-sabotages himself. Every single episode, every single season of the show. It's 6 seasons of the same character being like, I think I turned a corner, and then self-sabotaging himself. That is what the Eagles are. They just self-sabotage nonstop. They slip and fall. It turns into a pick six. They run into each other. It turns into a fumble. And if you take those plays out, they probably win this game easily, like 38-3. It's another 38-7 game against the Giants. It's crazy that the way that they are able to self-sabotage themselves. Certain people that we should probably call out in terms of like great games. One, Britton Covey, because I thought, dominating in all 3 phases was good to see. And an offense that's been struggling and a defense that has been lacking playmakers to make plays on special teams is huge, because it flips the field for them and makes life easier for both those units. And I thought Covey did a really good job yesterday. He also had his first reception, and I kind of like that because it was a different wrinkle that we hadn't seen before. We talked about it on our episode this week. We want to see some new things. They've become so predictable on offense, where if Jack Stoll's in the game, they're running the ball. If they're under center, they are going to run the ball. They had one pass from under center the entire season. What happened on the first drive of the season or of the game yesterday? Play action from under center to Dallas Goedert, 15-yard reception. Later on that drive, the first reception, wide receiver screen to Britton Covey, and it worked. It was for 7 yards. It was something new and different. It was something unique, something that defenses hadn't seen before and probably hadn't seen on tape, which allowed you to take off and utilize it and be efficient. Something new. Get creative. Do something different. I'm so tired of showing up. They're the SpongeBob episode where Squidward is doing the same thing every day. He's playing the clarinet. He's going to work. He's going home. He's going to sleep. That's their whole play sequence every single drive on offense. Yesterday was different. You could tell there were different plays. You can tell there was different wrinkles in the offense, and you like to see it. I thought Britton Covey played really well. The block by Olamide Zaccheaus on the Devontae Smith touchdown is exactly why he should be starting over Quez Watkins at all times. Not only is he probably better at the job you want Quez Watkins to do, which is be that explosive downfield threat, he's also a much better blocker and doesn't really do anything too crazy in terms of mental mistakes, aside from, running into his kick returner, causing him to fumble and turning the game on his head. But aside from that, I think he does a pretty good job in terms of football IQ. But just blocking through the play, blocking this guy completely down through the end zone on that touchdown. And a play, again, we've been asking for it. Take some shots over to the middle to your skill position players so they can get yards after the catch. Perfect example, over the middle to Devontae Smith. Great block by Zaccheaus. That turns into a touchdown. You're up 17-3. Everything is looking good. Hassan Reddick is another one. I started the show last week by talking about it doesn't matter if it's Sean Desai, it doesn't matter if it's Matt Patricia. At some point, somebody on the defense actually needs to be able to make a play on the field. In that sequence against the Seahawks, on the final drive, they were in the right defense. Matt Patricia did his job. The guys on the field did not. Somebody has to make a stop, and somebody had to make a play. Yesterday, there were 2 fourth down sequences for the Giants. Hassan Reddick absolutely obliterated both of them. The first came in the first half. It was a run to Saquon Barkley on 4th and 1. He gets stopped. He loses 3 yards. He's unblocked. Hassan Reddick racks him up. End of drive. Second half, they're driving down the field. It's 4th and 1. They're in shotgun. They throw it this time. He's unblocked. He gets pressure on Tyrod Taylor, who replaced Tommy DeVito at halftime. Another stop. A playmaker making a play in key situations for the defense. It's exactly what you need. If you had to bet on who was going to do it, you would probably say Hassan Reddick, and he did yesterday. But again, it's what you want to see because we keep talking about these coordinators, and at some point, somebody on the field needs to step up in 4th and goal situations and get a stop. And they actually did that in that situation. So I thought he was really, really good yesterday. We need to call out the playmakers when they happen because I think that's what's lacking the most with this team. I thought Jalen Hurts was really good yesterday. Some of those runs, the videos were circulating Twitter and social media from last year, the Packers game where he had like 70 yards in the first quarter running. And you're like, that's not the same person. This is not the same quarterback. I thought yesterday it looked as true to himself as we'd seen in years past in terms of running the football, but I also thought he did a great job throwing the football. The one pick six, again, is just them going full bad news bears and your receiver falling down, slipping and falling. If that ball is... If Goddard doesn't fall down, that's not a pick six. And it was the one mistake, if you will, that Jalen Hurts made the whole day. I thought he was really good throwing the ball. He set the record for rushing touchdowns in a season. Again, appreciate the commitment to DeAndre Swift for this bit where he just goes down at the 1 yard line at all times. If you have him in fantasy, I'm just so sorry because it is hilarious. His commitment to the bit of just falling at the 1 yard line so that they can run the tush push again and again and again. So all in all, like they dominated this game. You can't tell because they're they're now 11-4. They've played 15 games. I think I've seen 44 sequences of the defense being on the field at the end of the game with the other team being down 6 and needed a touchdown to win the game. I'm Bill Murray in Groundhog's Day. It's every game they've played this season since week 1 against the New England Patriots. They're in the same situation every time. The offense has the ball. They have a few first downs, but they aren't able to totally close it out. So there's a minute or so left for the opposing team. They have one timeout. They have no timeouts. They have to go the length of the field. They have to score. They've been in the same situation since Labor Day, and they were in it again yesterday. And if they would just stop self-sabotaging themselves, they'd be in such great shape. But they just can't get out of their own way. And it sucks because they won on Christmas. Great feeling, right? Cowboys lose the day before. You're now first in the division again. The 49ers lose after you. The Cowboys now have to take on the Lions. Either one of those losses would help you. So not only is the 1 seed somehow still on the table, the 2 seed very much on the table. If you keep winning, the division is yours, and you can't even feel good about it because at the end of the game, they're arguing with each other on the sideline as you pan to them after Kaylee Ringo's first ever interception. It's just really hard to be like, yeah, I'm excited when you pan to the sideline and they're not excited. There's something fundamentally wrong with the vibe of this team that after every win, it doesn't feel like anybody on that sideline is ever excited. It just feels like they're in constant internal battle and you don't really know what's going on. But like yesterday, interception, game over, and they pan, and it's like the offensive players talking to Nick Sirianni after Hassan Reddick came over to the sideline screaming the play before on the final timeout. How I'm a fan. I want to be excited, but I don't know what you want me to do in that situation. If the team's not going to be excited, how am I supposed to be excited? How am I supposed to focus on the positives here if it doesn't even seem like they are? And after the game, one of your receivers won't talk to the media. And that actually was better than what your other receiver said to the media, where he was like, it's not good enough. Fundamentally, when you aren't doing things well, there's still a ton of penalties. There's still a ton of miscommunication. I think we can find our way, but there's only 2 weeks left. I almost would have rather he didn't talk like AJ Brown did. That's 10 times worse. That's pretty much saying like, yeah, we aren't coached well. Everything he might not have meant to say that, but when you say you have a ton of penalties, there's a ton of miscommunication. I think we can figure it out, but I'm losing hope because there's 2 weeks left. Who else would you be talking about with those problems within the team, aside from the coaching staff and within that offensive coaching staff with Nick Sirianni, with Brian Johnson, with everything like that? And he's right. I mean, the execution just isn't there on a consistent basis. You saw it yesterday where they completely dominated 20 points in the first half, and then you're sitting there and you're like, how is it 20-18 right now? But that's been what's happening. Going forward, some things to notice and some things to keep an eye on. Again, I still think that they're in a good, hilariously, they're in a great position. It just doesn't feel like it because of what goes on the sidelines there. But they have 2 games left. If they win these games, they win the division. Obviously, math is on their side. I think they'll probably end up the 2 seed. I would figure next week, Cowboys, Lions, going to be a great game, but I really think the Cowboys are in bounce back territory. They're going to, the Lions are going to get the Cowboys' best shot. For the Eagles, though, you're in a weird position at corner. Avonte Maddox has been cleared to return to practice. He was a full practice participant this week, but he didn't play. I'm assuming he'll probably be back in the following 2 weeks against the Cardinals or the last week of the season against the Giants. He's your typical slot corner, does a phenomenal job with it. They missed him all season. Yesterday, because Darius Slay was out and because Avonte Maddox hasn't been playing since week 2, they had James Bradbury in the slot and Kaylee Ringo was playing on outside corner. Now, when Maddox comes back, he will definitely be the outside. He'll be the slot corner. What do you do at outside corner? It's a weird position where you're 11-4, on the verge of winning the division back-to-back times, going to the playoffs, and instead of playing your known starters, you may want to give the young guy a try. One, you need to figure out if he's the corner of the future, which is something that teams like the Bears do. The Cardinals, who we're going to see, do. Let the young guys play to see what we have for the years going forward. The Eagles are in a unique situation where they need to figure out if this young kid is their starting cornerback of the future, and also win games now and win the playoffs and try to get back to the Super Bowl. It's a really weird and unique situation, but when you play young guys, you're expecting, hey, mistakes will happen. We don't know what he is, but we'll try to find out because it's a low-pressure situation. At this point, I just think Kaylee Ringo may be the better cornerback than James Bradbury. Bradbury's just having a crisis of confidence that can't seem to be stopped. Again, yesterday on the final drive, he allows the 4th and 10 conversion over the top of him to Darren Waller. It's exactly what you saw last week against Seattle. If you throw it to him in those situations or throw it at him, the opposing team is going to make a big catch. So I think what you'll probably see going forward is Kaylee Ringo will probably be one of your starting outside corners, even after Maddox and Darius Slay are back. I'm assuming it'll probably be Ringo, Maddox in the slot, and Slay once he's back from his knee injury. And I think that'll be your trio going into the playoffs. I like Kaylee Ringo. I like them coming out. I love the Georgia guys. I'm glad that he fell to us in the 4th round. I thought it was great to trade up. Why not? Go for it. Is he ready for the moment? I don't know. Kind of feels like the Orion Kerkering thing with the Phillies where it was like, yeah, he looked good in September against a Mets team that didn't care. It was a little bit different in the NLCS. Would that happen to Ringo as well? But at this point, what do you have to lose? Because it's not just finding out if a young player is good. He might just be a better option at this point than your starting former all-pro corner from just a year ago who is just completely collapsing on himself. And what's the word? Self-sabotaging. Again, just another guy. Just take a deep breath and get out of your own way, and you'll be fine. That's one thing I'm looking at going forward. I thought the offensive line played really well without Landon Dickerson. He'll be coming back as well. So you look at it in totality, 450 plus yards of offense, completely dominated the game. Time of possession, first downs, points, everything. They completely dominated. They're getting healthier. They'll have their full offensive line back probably next week. They have an interesting, for the first time, you're starting to feel confident in your secondary. For the first time, you saw flashes from Darius Leonard where you're like, okay, I can allow you to be on a football field. I feel like we should be really happy about certain things with this team. And again, I don't know if we even can because I don't even know if they're happy. But I thought overall, I'll just take the win. After that 3-game losing streak, I'm just fine with a win. It just feels good to sit down after Christmas dinner and know that my team won the game. And I don't want to know any of the other details about it. I don't care about the pick six, the fumble, just win the game and get into the playoffs and we'll go from there. Because as you saw yesterday with the 49ers playing against the Ravens, anybody in this team can be beaten. Anybody in this league can get dominated. They were totally handled in that game. The Cowboys are now on back-to-back losses. The Lions have had slip-ups. Their defense, pretty much, even when they win pretty much every week, just looks like it's just a dumpster fire, and they get into a shootout every single week. So there's so many opportunities here for this team. Take advantage of it. They are SpongeBob when he has to write 10 words to get his driver's license. That's all you got to do. And you may be going back to the Super Bowl. You just have to not run into each other on kicks. Don't slip and fall. Try to not allow 70-yard touchdowns when a team's down by double digits in the fourth quarter. And you might just go back to the Super Bowl. So good win. Merry Christmas, everybody. We'll be back this week. 2 big games again for us. Cowboys, Lions, game of the week. Eagles playing the second coming of Satan, Jonathan Gannon. So that should be fun. We'll be back this week. Merry Christmas. And a win. Great, I think.
Chris Hansen here, and I'm going to need you all to take a seat right over there and check out Birds versus Boys.
I think you're completely right here, and I hate it.
Yep. Hey, idiots. Stop doing dumb things. I got 2 phones. Upset alert. Upset alert. I might go insane.
I think you're already there.
There's no hope. Hope is gone. If this was an AFC North podcast, we'd be done in 15 minutes. Bob Hope. I'm going to drink bleach. That is
the team you promised me you were going to be this year.
This is the Consciously Hopeful podcast.
I'll be watching.